And that's just my personal experience. I'm not saying that that doesn't exist. I think it absolutely exists. I think that women have to prove themselves double what a man has to prove himself within sports. I think within that arena. I definitely think that there are difficulties for women. And I think that nowadays there is an easier path. Somebody asked me recently, who did you look at? Who was the trailblazer that you looked at? Who was the woman in sports that kind of inspired you? And I realized that there wasn't really one. And that's sad, right? That I didn't kind of see somebody that I wanted to emulate, because I think that's so important in life. I think it's really hard to be able to dream something that you can't see. I think that's why representation is so important. But I don't feel like personally it has ever been a real issue. Actually, I'm lying. There was one situation, but I don't feel like it was to do with being a woman per se, but there was one situation where I felt very discriminated against, and I felt
Speak. Who was it? Go on. This is the crack.
Now he's coming out.
We got Gucci back.
So I was working at a network in Germany. I was young. This was the kind of the place I started off in television.
Sky Sports.
I never intended to start in TV. I just kind of fell into it. But I was doing the sports news, and there was another kind of branch of the TV network where they had more like feature type programming and magazine stuff. It was kind of like fun shows, culture, music, et cetera, and I thought that would be kind of cool. And the boss of that kind of side of the network had come to me and said, "Hey, I'd really like to bring you on. Are you interested?" And I said, "Yes." And he said, "Okay, but I need you to go to your boss, the head of sports, and talk to him about that, because it's messy. You need to basically request permission. I'm not going to try and poach you." So I said, "No problem." So I made an appointment with my boss at the time, a German guy. And he said to me, I was sitting in his office and he was in front of his desk and I'm on this side of it. And he said, "Can I speak openly?" When I'd said that I was really interested in doing the show. And I said, "Yeah, of course." He said, "Okay, could you stand up?" And so I stood up. He kind of walked around me and he said, in German, he said, that this show it's not like you're doing currently where you sit behind a desk as a news anchor. This would be kind of full body shots in the studio, lots of different angles. I said, "Yeah, I'm aware." And he said, "Es würde Leute geben, die würden sich fragen, was tut so ein fetten Arsch im Fernsehen?" Which means,
translate.
As he circled around me, he said, there would be people who would ask themselves, what is such a fat ass doing on television?
Wow.
And that was the end of my opportunity there, because he basically quashed it. And at the time, you always look back now and you think, man, like, as the woman I am now, I would handle that moment so very differently. Yeah. But at the time, I just felt kind of in shock that somebody could speak to me in that way. Yeah. Not even just that, like as a female, just on a human level, it felt very insulting to me. I was probably thicker then than I am now, but I didn't know how to handle the moment. And I think that probably that's a moment, men aren't used to being sexualized in a way that women are. It just doesn't happen in the same way in general terms. And so I think that I just didn't know how to respond at the time. So maybe I missed out on that one opportunity, but God has blessed me in many other different ways.
Did you just let it go? Did you just let that go? And there was
no HR back then that you got to report that.
I didn't even think about that. There probably was HR there. I never even thought about it. I had a very kind of laissez-faire attitude at the time. I mean, I was like 20 something. I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I was trying anything that came my way. And very quickly after that, I actually got offered an opportunity at CNN, and I was like, okay, bye. And so I was out there. Yeah, I did. I dropped it. I remember telling it became like a funny story to me. And, now if a young woman came to me and said, this has happened, somebody said this to me, my boss said this to me, what should I do? My advice would not be, just like laugh it off, it's whatever. I would think that you should handle it differently. And I've often regretted not having the ability or the wherewithal at the time to stand up for myself differently. But those, we expect people to do that. It's always difficult to do that when you're a young person, male or female, in a position where you want to progress in your career and this person has power over you. That's where those dynamics always go wrong.